Welcome to Syntax. Today we got a potluck episode where we're talking to you about the come up of the design engineer. This is a new thing you're hearing a lot about, and I think this is going to be a very important role in companies going forward. Talking about how to introduce your kids to AI, or if you even should. We've got special guest coming on, so stay tuned for that. Update on Scott using Omarchy in Linux. Is he still doing it, or is he switched back to Mac OS? Why AI has no taste, and we talk a little bit more about design in this episode, and it's not just about like how it looks. Design is not just like, oh, I chose red, because a lot of these apps look exactly the same, but they are not the same in how they function. And finally, we're talking about keeping coding agents efficient. How should you tackle building your projects so that they are efficient and not just spewing out a whole bunch of extra files? I got some really good tips from Scott on that one. If you've got a question you'd like us to answer, please go to syntax.fm, click on potluck in the navigation and send us that. We will answer it on a future episode. What's up, Scott? You ready to get going?
Hell yeah, I'm ready to get going.
All right. First question from Birthday Girl says, I'm a designer and self-taught developer with a background in design. I see myself as a hybrid, equally good at both, and don't want to define myself primarily as one or the other. Recently, the role of design engineer has been on the rise, and they linked to a Vercel blog post that essentially says what a design engineer is. A design engineer at Vercel blend aesthetic sensibility with technical skill. This allows us to deeply understand a problem, the design, and build and ship a solution autonomously, right? Somebody who has the eye for design and the UX of design, as well as actually being able to build the entire thing. So this term of design engineer is on the rise, which I think captures the dual expertise well. I have two questions. First, what are your thoughts on the future of design dev separations or convergence? And two, I feel like most engineers discount design and dev hybrid expertise if they come from a design background, but the vice versa is not true. A really talented engineer who got really good at designs seems to have credibility issues. Are people biased at design because it is not as a technical background? I find this a bit silly, given the developer community is very welcoming of self-taught developers. Or do I experience this more because I am a woman? Curious to hear your thoughts on this. Super design savvy devs. Thanks for the pod. Okay, this is awesome. And I love this idea of a design engineer because, like, many years ago, we had this question of like, should designers code? And everybody would fight about it. They say, no, I'm going to sit in Photoshop and I'm going to design my things. And then I'm going to hand it off to somebody else to actually do the implementation of it. And then equally, you've heard like devs being super frustrated where like, I designed this thing and then I handed it off and they didn't do a very good job. And then as the web got more complex, design became much more about how does it work? How do you interact with it? How do these things work together rather than simply just like, what does it look like, right? Like, I think that's such a very small part of design. So I love this idea of a design engineer, which is somebody who very well understands how products work, how user interfaces work, what happens when you click it, what happens when you have multiple items together. This stuff is we have a question coming up next that is similar to this. I won't say too much, but this stuff is so important, especially as everybody's just vibe coding their UIs right now and just pooping out some dog crap, right? So I think that this design engineer is fantastic, and I think it's going to be even more important in the next coming, maybe probably 6 months. You know, everybody and their mother can prompt out a half decent looking UI, but where excellent UIs really come to the surface is where somebody who spends time understanding how it all works together and how it interacts and what happens when you hover over top of it and the little frustrations that come with using an application. I've got more to say that on the next question, but I think that this skill is going to be the new full stack developer, right? Because that was the other thing, right? I'll let you talk in a second, Scott, but like that was the huge thing that everybody fought over as well, is like, should you be a full stack engineer or should you be back end and front end? That's no longer a question. In most cases, people are doing both in the web world.
Yeah. Wow. You know what? And I think one, happy birthday, birthday girl. Two, if it is still your birthday, which I would assume it is, considering that's your name, I would say on the regard of are people biased against design because it's not seen as technical? I think that this has always been one of bias that I've noticed. And I would like to pose that it's out of jealousy. Developers look at somebody who's good at design and think they possibly could not be as good of an engineer as me because, well, I'm not good at design, and I was, that's a whole discipline you've had to learn.
Yeah.
And I've spent that time in the engineering side of things. So I've personally seen this to be the case. Some people just have much better design intuition too. I've seen engineers that are fantastic designers just because they have that really good design intuition. I would also say it is probably also because you're a woman. I that is also a bias that we see in this industry. So you have multiple factors here, and I think that's working against you. But I do think that this role in particular is such a huge role in the future now of the world that we exist in with AI and all these things. And somebody who has design taste and design style is going to be able to create some really amazing stuff. So I think you're in a great position if you can read and write code as well as have a great design sense. To me, this is a role that I have tried to embody my entire career. This is the
Yeah.
the skill set that I wish that I had. I've always wanted to be a great designer, and I've never been able to crack that nut. I've always been a mediocre designer. Wes, you've always been a great designer, and that's one thing I've always been jealous of your abilities on, because it does. It could, if you are a great developer and a great designer, the world is your oyster.
You're unstoppable when you can do everything, and when you can come and fix solutions where it's not just what it looks like. Like, take a look at the Vercel blog post here. I'm sharing it. Is no individual expected to have all the skills that the team collectively is able to execute on ambitious designs because we have design in Figma and code, write production code, debug browser performance. That's a huge one. Write shaders, write copy. That's a big one as well. It's like, can somebody just look at a website that you're building and say, that's not the right tagline, that's not the right copy? You don't have to go through this whole thing of like, oh, let's get the copywriter involved, let's have a meeting. No, you should just be able to look at it and say that's not the right thing to say. That just doesn't feel good. And I feel like I've done that many times on the syntax team where you're just like, nah, that comes off as weird, right?
Yeah.
3D experiences, Blender, edit videos, using CGI for camera effects, all of that type of stuff is just like, if you can do it all, or if you have a good taste in all of these things, you're unstoppable in creating things that will be able to capture people's attention and make an enjoyable product in this age of absolutely dog crap interfaces.
Yeah, totally. Word. So, birthday girl, I think you're in a great spot.
Yes.
So, next question from Mike Swatek. Hey guys, not a question. Oh, Mike, what are you doing? Not a question, just a comment. I was thinking about it as I drove to work, listening to the Anthropic episode where you guys kept mentioning how AI tends to lack taste, and I don't know how else to put it. I would liken it to the 90s and 2000s subdivision boom where developers basically used a template, all houses looked the same, everything looked cookie cutter, and you couldn't tell homes apart. All of those houses lacked character, and I think that's what's missing when it comes to designs or creating things. It's missing the character that makes it unique. Yes, exactly. And this goes right with the birthday girl's question, where the people who have the design sense and they have the ability to see something and make it look special are the people who are on it.
Yeah.
Because we've always had this. Anybody who's been in the industry knows that back in the early 2000s, we had the basically unstyled websites. Links were blue, backgrounds were white or single color. Maybe you had repeating background GIF images or something like that. Then we had the Bootstrap era where everything looked like either Bootstrap or Foundation, and you could see it from a mile away. And then now we have the AI slop era of the same thing where everything looks like you got unnecessary all uppercase labels. You have all the design tells, right? This is nothing new. It's just a different version of the same thing.
And I think this is a really good example because yes, they look like violently. People always say like violently Ontario. Like you've been to my neighborhood, right? All of the houses look exactly the same, and they are all awful looking. And that's one part of it. They're not nice looking houses, but on the same regard is like there's a lot of like weird things about it. Like my roof has like 800 peaks and valleys, and it's all unnecessary. I've been in the attic. It could just be a square. It could just be a little hut. It could be a triangle, but no, there is probably, 8 different peaks and points that are all unnecessary, and they just added that because it looked good. And it was impressive to the people that wanted to buy these houses in the 2000s. And now like we have to get my neighbor got their roof replaced, and it was like $50,000 or something insane like that because of how complex it is, right? And there's all of these like usability issues where like you drive into any garage on our street and you can hardly open your car door. Like did nobody think that you would need to open car doors by driving in these things? Like there's all of these awful usability things about the houses, and I agree where it's just like, yes, that is technically a house, and that is technically a nice, decent looking house. But when you really get into like the usability and the flow and how people live in a lot of these houses, there's a lot of like weird oddities that the people are trying to now undo in how these things work. So my rant here is that it's not just what it looks like with this AI design. Yes, we get it. Like there's purple and there's gradients and stuff added to it. Like
Border
that's
left.
Not the biggest point here. The biggest point is not what it looks like. It's how usable it actually is. Because if you take a look at like all of the apps, like if I open Threads, Twitter, Blue Sky, and all of these other like short form blogging apps, sometimes I cannot even tell which one I'm in. If I am on TikTok and on Instagram, I often do not know which app I am in. I have to like swipe up to actually see what icon it is because they look so much the same. But if I am using Threads, and I get so frustrated with it because the actual interface of it, if you go on Threads desktop, infuriating experience. Even though it looks very similar to Twitter, there is so much more thought and care put into the design of Twitter than there is on the Threads desktop website. And that there is a perfect example of it's not what it looks like. It's how you interact with it, how you use it. If somebody spent the time to say, when you click on this button where it says a notification, does that notification clear? Or all of these little tiny examples as to how the interface is to get where you want. Another example is, this is my rant hour of bad interfaces.
Yes.
But like,
yes.
The Apple screen time for parents, every single time I need to make a change in my screen time, I get so mad because it's an awful, like technically, yes, there is a list of settings and you can click on the different categories, you can click through to them, but the usability is absolutely awful. And
it's
that's
bad.
a perfect example of like somebody actually wanting to use it.
Yes.
Rant over.
Yes. Yeah. And it is funny because it's a great analogy, like you had mentioned, but the cardboard nature of some of the homes that are built in that era, McMansion kind of era of homes, is very analogous to the way that AI stuff is churned out here. So
just add it on.
And if you want to see all of the errors in your application, you'll want to check out Sentry at sentry.io/syntax. You don't want a production application out there that, well, you have no visibility into in case something is blowing up and you might not even know it. So head on over to sentry.io/syntax. Again, we've been using this tool for a long time and it totally rules. All right.
Next question from TLC says, I hear a lot of people talking about how LLMs have helped accelerate the speed of development, but testing is more important than ever. What I haven't heard is that what are people actually using to write tests? Are people writing them by hand? Are we using Claude to generate the tests on the code we just wrote? What about more specific end-to-end and edge cases? It seems like it would be a huge token spend to explore and write playwright tests for a complex site using an agent. So yes, a few things. First of all, your tests are more important than ever. As people are just prompting and adding features to absolutely everything, you need to feel extremely confident. There's the amount of pull requests that are coming in, the amount of code changes that are coming in have skyrocketed. And you need to have confidence that adding these things is not going to break other parts of your website, right? Like I get all of these pull requests on some of my sites that don't have tests. And I'm just like, I don't know if you actually spent time doing this or if you just drive by prompt pull request something and it's going to break something else. So the tests are more important than ever. I totally agree. So a few thoughts here. Unit tests first for complex logic is something that I will do quite a bit. So one example on my personal website, I needed to be able to take in a URL for any social network and parse out the ID of that URL. Fairly simple function where, I don't know, there's like 10 different kinds of social networks and there's probably 20 different types of links. You know, there's youtube.com, there's u2.be, there's twitter.com, there's x.com, there's threads, there's Blue Sky. They all have 6 or 7 different types of URLs that you can. So what I did was I took every possible example of every URL that I want and I wrote unit tests for it. So take in this, expect the platform to be Twitter and the ID to be ABC123. And then having that, I was so much more confident being like, all right, AI, please write a function that will cover every single one. And you can kind of loop through it and make sure that it hits every single one of those use cases. So unit tests, extremely important in that regard. And then the end-to-end integration tests are super important for these types of things because you want to make sure that you can still use it. I don't think the token spend is any bigger than writing the actual code. What do you think?
Yeah. You know what? For me, it's like part of the benefit of this type of thing is making your confirmations of things working more deterministic. I personally lean more on end-to-end tests than I do for even unit or integration tests. End-to-end tests in the web context is really firing this thing up in a browser and stepping through. Tools like Playwright are so good for this because you can see it happen. In Cypress, and I'm sure Playwright has this too, Cypress had a mode where you could click through the thing and it's going to write and record your tests.
Yeah,
you could
Playwright
even put an agent browser on that to do that and have it write the test as you click through it. And then that becomes a deterministic thing where it's going to run through these things. One thing that I've always loved in a integration test or an end-to-end test setup is like just straight up an app tour where it's going on everything, clicking on everything, doing everything one by one. And then that way you can just see at a glance something break. Another thing too with this is that visual testing is not something that I ever really like to do because styles change and your test fail and all this stuff. But sometimes when working with CSS and agents and all these things, if you're working in big systems, having visual testing is a good way to make sure that nothing is breaking, really. So I really lean hard on end-to-end tests, especially in this, and moving those possible things out of the AI's discretion, right?
Yeah.
Oh, fire up a Chrome MCP or fire up an agent browser and make sure this thing works. How about instead write the Playwright test, click through it, and then you can run those tests.
And talk about token spend. Like Cursor,
Yes.
Claude, they want to open a browser to test it, right? You see them doing that all the time. And that's way more expensive than just running a deterministic test. So you're in good shape. You probably use less tokens if you have explicit ones. And also, like, one thing people hate about tests is that when they're flaky, you start to ignore them because you're like, it's actually fine, but something broke, you know? And having an agent be able to decipher is that just it being flaky? Is that like a non-issue that throw? Can I modify it? Agents are fantastic at being able to look at something that was flaky and say, this is a big deal, something broke, or no, that's totally fine.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Next question here from Shabazz. What are your thoughts about AI being a bubble? Do you think that the bubble will burst anytime in the near future? Is it even possible? Do you think people will go back to coding manually in that case, or would it be difficult to go back to coding manually if we ever have to? I think the information around AI being a bubble is very real. I think the the house of cards there in terms of CPU or GPU ownership and things like that. I think all of that very much makes sense. Yeah. Do I think that the bubble will pop and that AI will go away? Absolutely not. I think we're kind of in a world where people will just be able to do whatever they want. And I think there's too much money involved here. I think the companies are just going to keep passing money around. AI is going to keep existing until either it becomes profitable or there's just going to be a couple of big players, and that's it.
Yeah.
Either way, the what is that cat going down the bag? The rabbit's not going back in the hat.
The genie is in the bottle.
Yes, the genie is not going back in the bottle. No. So are we ever going to go back to writing code by hand only? No, absolutely not. I don't see that ever happening. Yeah. I cannot imagine a world where that exists. Folks, this is the reality. This is it, man. This is what's going on. So like, I don't see it. So to me, I think the world that we live in is you got to get good at working with this stuff if you want to continue to be effective. Yeah. That's just where I'm at on this.
How we are building this stuff has fundamentally changed forever, and that is not going back. The bubble itself, like CJ and I had a video called "The AI Bubble is Bursting," and that was about how expensive these things are getting, where every single company 6 months ago was like, whatever, sign up, spend as much as you want, go, we're changing. And then here we are 6-8 months later, a lot of these companies are going, oh, this is kind of getting expensive. We're not spending this much per employee because this is hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And the bubble of Anthropic being able to charge every single engineer $5,000 a month, I think is going away. And we're seeing that by people realizing, oh, some of these new open weight models are 10 times cheaper and 98% as good. So that's where I'm going. So that the bubble of like how much money these companies have raised and like, are they going to be able to get that back? I don't know. That's the kind of the crazy part about it, is that like, what if we all just switched to the other models that are 10 times cheaper and just as good?
I think that the way you could think about this, Shabazz, is that when the .com bubble burst, did the internet go away? Was like websites gone? No, just like pets.com, or who was it? Whoever was it pets.com? They were like the poster child of the whole the .com bubble burst. Well, either way, when the .com bubble burst, it's not like websites or the internet or any of that stuff went away. It's just that some people got shut down. A lot of people did. And the things of like people are going to be ordering dog food online turned out to not be true. It was just too hard. And I think a lot of the things the big AI companies are saying, where it's going to be replacing absolutely everything and there's going to be no jobs for anybody anymore. I don't think that is true. And I think that's the bubble that is going to be burst. And we're already seeing people like having a hard time believing anything that OpenAI, Anthropic are saying anymore, because it's just like, are you saying that because you're trying to pump the stock value, or are you saying that because you actually believe it? Yeah, right. Yeah, totally.
They kind of lost me at the AI needs a therapist one. That was my breaking point, where I was like, you are so dumb. The OpenClaw becoming sentient and AI models needing a therapist. It kind of lost me there.
Yeah. Yeah, it is wild. Yeah. All right. Next one here from Anon. What are your thoughts on the negative public sentiment towards AI and data centers? Do you think it would affect vibe coded products or products made with AI, even if they're somewhat decent? Yeah, man, data centers suck. I think they're a necessary evil if AI is going to continue to exist. And I say necessary in terms of they are required for the AI to continue to expand. Data centers, quite possibly for the compute, they need to exist in that sense. Do I like data centers popping up in different communities, causing hum, messing with water supply, heat and energy usage and all that stuff? I hate that. And I'm like, I hate how it's affecting communities. And one, I ultra hate how politicians are collecting money and then just throwing these in their communities and saying whatever. I hate that. And I don't have anything educated to say beyond that. It like kind of drives me nuts when I see like people living in major cities being like, LOL, let's throw some data set. Like, I don't know if you see this, Wes, but I see this in Twitter where there's like people like pro data center, like, yes, let's huck data centers here and there, wherever. But like, it's not affecting you. So like that, I don't know. It should be up to the people of the communities they're being put in.
Yeah, I think it's kind of tricky. So they tried to put one here in Hamilton on steel land, like literally like this. Nobody wants to live there. It's awful. It's polluted. It's like an old steel mill that is just like unusable. And everybody said absolutely no way. And I think part of that is for legitimate reasons where it's like, yeah, we don't want this thing having lights and humming all day long. Like you see it even. You drive in Ontario and you see the like cannabis greenhouses, they just glow. Yeah. Like imagine living next to this glowing orb. In the middle of the night, you can just see this just like
that smells like glow.
Weed. Yeah. that sucks. And I feel for those people that has popped up in their neighborhood. But then like in the same regard, like you can see a lot of these people protesting against it and they don't really understand it. Like part of it comes from an anti-AI sentiment, because they've been told by all these wieners that their jobs are going to go away and it's going to absolutely destroy the world, right? Like stop being a wiener and stop talking like that. That's why these people don't like you. That's certainly one of them. But then also like these people don't understand. Like I see like a TikTok where someone's like, no AI data centers, AI is awful. And then they like put the AI captions on there and then they put the AI green screen behind them. And like, they don't understand that like for you to be able to use these apps and these features, we need these somewhere, So for some regards, yes. And like for like good things like medicine and for you to be able to use social networking and enjoy your TikToks, you need those. So I think there's a bit of a balance here, and it's kind of a hot topic. And also, I don't even know, like the water is one of them. I have this question and nobody can seem to answer it. Like, where does the water go? Doesn't it go back into the clouds and rain again? How does water work? How does rain work? I would like to talk to somebody that's a bit more dialed on that and not so, doesn't have like a horse in that race.
Yeah. Well, I think that's tough because I think a lot of the people have horses in the race.
Yes.
Yeah. And one thing that I think maybe I'm sensitive to this because specifically like Denver, man, we have a major drought this year. I worry about the climate here. Mm-hmm. And Denver is worried about it too. They put a moratorium in effect. So no more data centers for 1 year. In Colorado in general, I think a lot of communities here are very anti the data centers, specifically because we have limited water here. Like the water that we get comes from snowfall in the mountains and it melting. And if we have a bad snow year like we had last year, then there's like no water. I can only water my grass on 2 days, 2 days a week. And it's dry and super 100 degrees here. So
but
like, I mean, the water stuff is a sensitive conversation.
Like a liquid cooled PC, you put the water in or like the coolant in and like, it just like cycles forever, right? You're not just like putting toxic stuff in it and then just firing it into space, I may be like totally out to lunch. You guys can let me know in the comments, but like are not new data centers closed looped, meaning that like you would fill them with like water and coolant and then you're not just like constantly turning the tap on and refilling these things and cooling things off. I think that's a little different than like pumping them into crops, like pumping it out of the ground and then like making like almonds or something like that.
Yes, I don't know the answer. Folks, we are speaking ignorantly. So if there's any good resources on this stuff, leave them in the comments. I want to know all about this.
Next question from Aaron. Can we get an update on Scott using Linux? I sold my Mac almost a year ago and went all in on Linux. I have a Linux desktop and a laptop, Framework 13. I love Linux, but the thing I'm discovering, it feels like I need at least one stable machine in my life. I miss my MacBook and will probably buy one later on this year. I was wondering how Scott feels since the Omarchy episode.
Yes. Well, you know what? I think my, okay. To answer your question, Aaron, I have been using my MacBook Pro full time. The reason being is that the computer that I was using for my Linux is quite old. I think I bought it pre-Syntax, so it might be like from like 2016. I mean, that might be a 10-year-old laptop.
Yeah,
here.
You have the Framework 13, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't have the Framework 13. I have the, it's made by System 76 Lemur.
Yes, another random number. I think you bought that
System
during
73?
the thing, but I bet it's 8 years old if I were to
76.
remember when you bought it.
It's old for a laptop. For me, I used to upgrade my laptop frequently. So this MacBook Pro is like the longest I've had any computer, and it is showing its age right now. But either way, so that computer was not even good to start with. It was like a cheap Lemur that I got to have around, and so because of that, it's not possible for me to use it as my full-time machine. We're doing a lot of media. If I was doing less media recording, I think I would be fairly happy working on that full-time. The biggest issues I had with Omarchy in general was Omarchy. I have no idea how to say it still today. Was like the dual monitor support. I thought sucked. And there were people in the comments being like, it's not that hard. You got to just open up this config and write these following config lines. Like, brother, just let me plug it into a monitor and have me drag stuff around like that, or easy keyboard shortcuts.
Yeah.
But could I use Linux full time? I think I could. If it wasn't for my media stuff. If I was just a developer, I think I would be very happy on that. As far as what am I using Linux for today, I have a Steam machine, the video game system that I'm running Linux on and doing some non-gamey stuff on it. But two, I am going to be building a cyber deck, which is fully Linux and will be existing in a little handheld Linux computer. And that will actually be my beefiest Linux computer, even though it is going to be a handheld cyber deck. So folks, keep your eyes out for that project, because I'm going to be throwing Linux on that bad boy, and I'm going to be doing some cool stuff with it. So I can't wait to show it off, actually.
I would love to do it, but there's just the media stuff, like I need Photoshop and I need a DaVinci. I know DaVinci Resolve runs on like one version of Linux and you can like kind of get it running. I like looked into it at one point. I'm like, can I really get Linux? Can I really get DaVinci Resolve running on Linux? And like all the reviews are like, it works pretty good. Like, I don't want pretty good. I don't want like, oh, you have to do X, Y, or Z. No thanks. And then also like a lot of the like, same with like Windows people. They're like, what's the equivalent of X, Y, or Z on Windows? And there's always some like half-baked, watered-down version of something. Like, I'm not using, I don't know, what's the like Photoshop alternative that everybody always uses? Like some crappy, sketchy version.
The one on Linux, I don't know. But like, I haven't used Photoshop in so long, so I understand that.
GIMP, that's the one. I'm not using GIMP.
No, I'm not using GIMP. You can miss me on GIMP entirely. And like, people talk about like Audacity being good enough. And then it's like, I use Audacity to record Courtney's podcast, and man, Audacity sucks. And I'm not saying that's the only audio thing, but Audacity straight up sucks. There's so many annoyances with it in general.
Does it still look like it's built in Java and Windows XP, or did they finally skin that thing? Yes?
No, I would say it looks a hair better.
Okay.
At least unless they're coming out with something new that looks crazy. I mean, even the logo should tell you what it looks like enough. It looks the exact same. They've made it look a hair decent, but no, like that's such a thing for me. That's like the design of the application has to be nice still. I'm just sorry. I need that. I'm not
Oh, it looks
hardcore enough.
Audacity 4 looks a little better than I remember it. I'm just looking at it right now. But I don't know.
Audacity 4 beta 2.
Don't
Okay,
have
so it's just in
time
beta
for that type of stuff. I would absolutely love it because there's so much in macOS that I absolutely hate, but I just don't have time to fuss with that type of thing. And also, I just love a computer that you can upgrade. You know, I'm looking at these Framework laptops, the Framework Pro, where you can like put more RAM in it if you want, or you can choose which ports you want. Like one of my biggest qualms with my MacBook Pro is almost over this, but there's no USB-A on it, and there hasn't been forever. So you have to carry the dongle around because so much of my stuff is still USB-A, and I'm almost to a point now where everything I own is just straight up USB-C. But still, every now and then you run into something weird, and you're like, oh, now I gotta find the dongle and put it in.
I don't use anything USB-A. That port is not something that's not something I think about. But
Nothing?
like, no, nothing. Not a single thing. Oh, maybe not a single thing. I don't know. But unless I'm at my desk, and if I'm at my desk, I do have like the big unit, which I need anyways to connect all my stuff because I got too much stuff to connect anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, I don't know. I'm using. I personally, I think I could. I don't know, man. I'm happy. I think my next computer is even going to be a MacBook Air, and then get a Mac Studio and have that be chilling here.
We had a couple other questions of like what are you waiting out for like the local AI thing, and it's just like some beefy ass Mac Studio that you can buy and slap in. I like it's too early. You can't really do it on hardware unless you have many thousands of dollars to run, but maybe new chips in the next, I don't know, couple years. It's going to be a few years before this type of thing. And I'm sitting here on my M1 MacBook Pro. It's starting to get a little bit slow as well. And I'm kind of like, I don't want to upgrade yet, but
yes, I know it is. It is better. Like my fans are running all the time on this thing. And I'm thinking like taking out another mortgage to get a Mac Studio with a 1.5 terabytes of RAM whenever that drops. That's actually a joke. I'm not considering that, folks. But
that's insane. You know what? Yeah. One thing I did is the Mac Pro, when they moved to the 16-inch from the 15-inch, you can't bring it on a plane anymore. The 15-inch would just fit underneath the little notch. And like I cannot code on a plane anymore with the 16-inch, and I am getting the 14 next time I get a laptop.
I think this is the power of being short in kind of slight here, is that I can do my stuff on the laptop on the plane. I'm a little guy. I can crunch up in a little ball and use my laptop. I can get in here and just.
Oh my gosh, short king. He's just a little guy.
Yeah.
All right, are we ready for this next one here?
Yes, Court, we are ready for you.
Next question we have a special guest for, because Scott and I don't know anything about kids or parenting or whatever. So Syntax Face's dad says, how are you teaching and exposing your kids to AI? Are they asking to have AI chatbot friends, or are they starting to ask Claude instead of Google? How has this latest round of tech shown up in family life? And what are you hearing from parents in your circle? So we thought, let's bring in the expert. Dr. Courtney Talinsky knows a ton about children. So give us, people have probably heard you before, but give us a quick rundown of your credentials and what you do before you answer this.
Yeah. Hi. So I'm Dr. Courtney. I'm a licensed clinical and school psychologist. And I've been working with kids and families in schools, private practice, et cetera, for over 15 years. And now actually Scott and I have we've started a podcast about child development, so it's called phases.fm, and now I get to talk even more about all of these things, and it's been great.
That's awesome. So what do you think about AI and kids? Is it a good idea to expose them to it?
Yeah, well, so this one's tricky, and I think it depends on, the child's, it depends on so many factors, right? But obviously the child's age, their maturity level, and where they are developmentally. So this person did not leave this child's age, but we'll start at I guess high school. We can start there. So high schoolers, we're imagining, are using AI more in schools. And I know at least for our kids, they have Chromebooks. And so Gemini is just kind of built into their search engine. And so it's just already there. I don't know how much the teachers are really monitoring that, but I do think it's important at home to have these conversations with your kids. So if it's a high schooler, they might be diving more into the chatbot friends, and using it to supplement their actual answers or responses for what they should be doing independently. So I think it's really important to teach kids to be critical thinkers. And it's something that we've been talking about here with our kids who are only, 7 and 9. But I think it's even more important at that high school age to really have that conversation and to let kids, understand and know that just because it's a computer, it doesn't mean that it's going to be accurate. We do tend to think of computers as being accurate and error proof, but, we know that AI is not, right? It hallucinates. It is not always correct. And the more you have conversations with it, the more it starts to make mistakes.
Yeah.
So, having that understanding really built into your kids of it can make mistakes and it is not error proof is really important. And again, to be critical thinkers. So to be able to think about, is this answer correct? Is this, aligned with what I know?
Yeah.
Do I need to double check this or, go elsewhere for information?
I was showing my kids the other day how AI is highly agreeable. And I showed it by just doing 2 separate prompts of things that you thought, and it agreed with you in both cases, because often we'll use it to not resolve a fight, but someone says one thing and the other person says another thing, and they'll be like, hey, Gorgle, is it true that X, Y, or Z? And it's really funny. I showed them how you just phrase it in a certain way, and then it will come back to you with an agreeable answer to you. And they're like, oh, wow, you can, it's not the definitive answer. And I feel like I've taught my kids to have a high level of skepticism towards a lot of the stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe even too much. They think the news... They think the news is AI because it's so well produced, or anything with a blurred background they think is AI.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, so maybe not. I mean, a healthy dose of skepticism, right? But I like the word critical thinking because it's an important life skill for all adults to be critical thinkers of anything anyone is telling you. But I like that you're doing that with your kids. I think that's great.
Another thing is we have it in our car now. We have Grok in our car. And it's funny because when we're in the car, we're often talking about things and questions will come up. And I really like having it because you can find we have a button that literally you can get an answer to anything. And sometimes I'll pause and be like, well, look, let's talk about it. What do you think? Like that. There's that critical thinking of don't press the button to answer absolutely everything immediately. It's nice that we have it, but let's talk about have critical thinking. Think about what the answer might be. What are your thoughts? And then we can ask Grok what it thinks, and we can kind of build off of there.
We were just talking in our episode about boredom, Wes.
Yes.
About how it's good for kids to be bored, and how even with on-demand TV, it's so easy to get everything instant.
Yes.
And I think that really aligns a lot with that. Sometimes you need to suffer through discussion or use your brain and figure things out. And if you're just getting everything instant, what's that teaching? It's not teaching critical life skills but it's ignoring that entirely.
Yeah, well, and I think that's so tricky too, because just the process if you go back to high school or college, the process of writing, it takes forever, and there's so many drafts and versions that you have to do. There's so much effort, and it's just so easy to put it into AI and have it do it for you. But then you're missing all of those foundational skills, that you need to be a good writer or a good thinker. So I think it's a tricky balance, because I can understand that temptation for kids to want to just put it in there and just get the answer.
Yeah, that instantness. I was even thinking, this is not AI related, but I was thinking about are you guys into like Neatos and all the squishies right now? Your kids are into those?
We don't have any, but I know it's a big toy now.
Yeah, everybody loves getting these squishies, and they're really hard to find, and there's all different kinds, and kids want them.
Is this the new Labubu?
It's even crazier than that. It's absolutely nuts how these kids want the latest squishy. That is, they see a video about it, their friends are getting it, and I remember that as a kid of like wanting the latest thing, but like now we have the internet where you can just press a button and it will come the next day at your doorstep. And like I was thinking about like being okay with not having something. Like it was a very good lesson for me growing up, where like I didn't have all the stuff that my friends had, and simply because you could not find it. I remember I wanted a visor so bad, and so stupid, but like I wanted a visor for like a year, and then finally we found one at like a discount store, and I was so happy about it. But like that, like just hold out, we'll find it somewhere, is like I feel like such a good life skill.
I also wanted a visor, and I ended up I got to skate at the Warped Tour. I got to skate skating at the Warped Tour, and I got a visor and a T-shirt from it. So I was like, I got my visor. I can put my bleached tips through the top. Spike them up real good.
Oh my god.
One other thing I'll add here is that we specifically don't let our kids have the AI image transformation because like a couple times we've done it where you take a photo and then you try to make a silly thing, or like, what would it look like if I have this haircut? But I think that could be very damaging to children, where what would I look like if I was prettier, or what would I look like if I had a different color hair? And then all of a sudden you just don't start to not like yourself because the photo that the AI comes up with looks so much better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point too. And I was talking about high school earlier, but like going to like elementary school or middle school where we are now, we monitor our kids when they're and they
computing in general.
Computing in general. But if they're using AI, we're using it with them, and we don't let them have a lot of exposure to it. But I made like a really cool project with my son. It was like an affirmation poster, and I had him like type in the things that he wanted it to say, the things that he's good at and his strengths, and we made it in his likeness. It was really neat. But, I did that with him, and we talked about the process.
Yeah.
So I think introducing kids to AI is important, because obviously we know it's not going away, but you have to do it in a way where you're like guiding their usage and monitoring it. And obviously with chatbot friends, things like that, having them understand that it is, a predictive model. It does not care about you. It does not have feelings for you like a human being would. And, having that distinction in those conversations, I think, is so important. But doing that exposure in a way that is, supported and guided by you.
You know what we should do, Wes, is we should get CJ to do his video that he did about building an LLM from scratch, teaching LLMs and how they work. We should get him to redo that in like a Blippi costume and make a lot of like
guys. Yeah. Do you want to hear about tokens? Yes, we'll put them on that.
I think would watch that show.
I know. Yeah, do it in like a Mark Rober style. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that would be great. I like that a lot.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool.
Right.
Well, thank you so much, Courtney, for your time. I appreciate it. Check out phases.fm if you want to learn a little bit more about how to raise your kids. A lot more to that, though. It's awesome. I'm just reading the Phases website right now. Dr. Courtney Tulinski, PhD, LP, NCSP, licensed clinical and school psychologist, and her husband, Scott.
Yes. Yes.
Just Scott.
Just me. That's me.
Just Scott. Oh, that's hilarious.
I don't have any titles. Nothing fancy.
Full stack.
Yes, full stack. Yes, exactly.
Cool. All right, next question we have here from Geezy. As someone who has spent much time learning to program skills without AI. I was recently turned away for not having much experience using AI to build things. What would you recommend for someone who doesn't really work with AI to using it as a development tool effectively? This is crazy that we're starting to hear these things, whereas like it used to be, can you code without the help of AI? And now people are being turned away because they don't know how to use these tools effectively, and they wouldn't make for a good employee. And I think like as much as we joke about just typing in the box what you want and it comes out the other end, there certainly is a huge skill to be able to use these effectively, be able to choose. The one weird skill right now is that you have to know how expensive these things are. Like we were talking yesterday how like some people are spending thousands of dollars a day, and we're like, how can that even be possible? And one of the ways is that people just continue chats in the morning.
Yeah.
And if the chat is not cached, then let's say you had a $150 chat yesterday and you say, all right, let's keep going today. That's another $150 tokens one, because it's no longer cash, it's no longer hot, and it has to send that whole back history, and then you've racked it up. So like you have to know about these types of things in terms of how much they cost, and as well as like how do you steer them? How do you write plans? How do you tackle them? What skills are you using? All of that type of stuff. And how do you figure this stuff out? I think you just got to start using it. You got to say, given that what I know about being a good programmer, how can I wield this tool in such a way where it will output high quality code and software for what it is that I want? So you just have to like really get in, listen to us. We got lots of tips on this podcast as well.
Yes. And honestly, I think like that is such like the other, like we talked about in the genie going back into the shoe. It's going to become it's not going to become, it's become a part of this job. Just as like at one point you were like, all right, test driven development, that's like a part of this job. You need to understand whether or not you're doing it. You should probably understand how to be effective with it. Or even for full stack engineers, when JavaScript frameworks came into play, it's like, all right, now you got to learn how to do UI and JavaScript stuff. You know, I mean, there's always going to be these shifts, and this is just another one of those shifts. You have to understand how to be effective with it, or you will get turned away from jobs. And I there's going to be exceptions to that. It's not every job, but I think more and more you're going to see that.
Yeah. Your basic like run of the mill, your common job is going to want to see that you are good with these tools, no differently than how they wanted to see you're good with your text editor setup, your GitHub integrations, all of that type of stuff. Just, I know a lot of people have been ignoring it for so long because they thought it was bad or whatever, but you're not, that genie, unfortunately, is not going back in the bottle, like Scott says.
All right, last question here in this like all AI episode from Keyboard Tapper. How do you keep coding agents, Claude Code, Cursor, you name it, efficient, token usage, speed, hallucinations, and accurate in big code bases? Do you cap agents.md size? What I try to do is I try to keep code files small React code components. If there's a linting rule, rather catch it with the linter than writing it down inside of Claude.md. Store the why of technical choices in separate ADRs and link to them. Be mindful of compacting conversations. Curious on what you guys do. Thanks for the show. It's awesome. Let me tell you, I do a lot of this exactly like you do. I try to make things deterministic. We talked earlier in the show, getting the correct testing, take the agent out of just testing stuff to writing tests and having those tests execute in an end-to-end setup. But I use tools like Fallow to make sure that code duplication is taken care of and things like that. There was a really good blog post from Ben Vinegar on the Modem site, modem.dev. I'll link to it, talking about writing code that's effective and efficient for agents, because you're creating functions that have unique descriptive names rather than generic names, and making your code more findable, reducing token spend in that way. I do use the ADR approach because I have found it to be good. So ADR is like a decision document that documents why you make decisions that the AI can reference when it needs to, instead of just throwing all that stuff into an agents.md. Again, take anything that can be deterministic out of your agents.md, put it into hard things. Claude Code and Open Code, these things have the idea of like hooks. And if you can build in hooks to catch the AI in a deterministic way, it's trying to do something, you stop it and then step in there. That's great too. Again, any of these tools that can be caught by linters, what is fallow considered? Fallow is static code analysis. Yeah. Anything that can be caught in those ways, I do so. Small code files, man. AI loves to make a big ass file. It loves to make a big ass file. So making a deterministic way to say, hey, I think this file's getting a little big. Definitely always something good to have.
I think that those are great. We've done several episodes in the past on like tips for this type of stuff, but Scott nailed it there, is make it as deterministic as possible. Don't absolutely throw so much in your agents.md. In many cases, those are going to cause slower responses and way more code generation, right? Like I when the skills first came out, I slapped so many different skills in here and had all these different like super user or whatever. I ripped them all out. You don't need them. I certainly still have a handful of skills and rules per project. But a lot of this stuff you don't necessarily need, and it's just making things messier than normal.
I have skills for like here's how to use the Svelte agent tools or whatever. Okay, here's how to use Dex, which is our thing, so that way it doesn't have to do Dex help. Dex is a task list thing that I use. So it doesn't, like, as if you don't have a skill for that, it's always going to be like, let me go to Dex -help and see how to use it. So I'll use skills for things like that. But again, like you said, Wes, I'm looking at a agents.md file I have right now that's way too long that I need to knock out here.
I also, like, what people love to do is they love to say, like, analyze my code base and then create a agents.md based off of that. And then it just duplicates absolutely everything. And a good coding model is able to infer a lot of that stuff without you having to write it down explicitly. So it's in many cases not necessary.
Yes. That's all I have here. Wes, do you have anything else for us? Do you want to get into sick picks? And yeah.
I do. I have the sickest pick for you. We just spent some time up at our cottage, and one thing that I built, I don't know, probably 8 years ago at our cottage was a floating dock. It's like a 12 by 12 raft. It has those like blue barrels underneath, so it floats, and it's super fun. And it's connected to the ground with two huge chains. And then there's cinder blocks at the bottom. And over the winter, one of the chains snapped and fell to the ground at 15 feet underwater. And I was like, oh no, like, first of all, the chain is really expensive. I don't want to have to buy a new chain. It's a couple $100. But also 13 feet is too deep for me to dive. I'm not that good of a diver, and nobody I know can dive that deep to be able to find it. And we also didn't know where it had fallen, right?
And it's like mucky or you never know. It's
it's just it's sandy. It's not mucky, but it's sandy enough that you can't see through it. So what we ended up doing is we bought something that I've wanted forever, and that is a magnet fishing set. I don't know if you've ever been on YouTube and watched like magnet fishing, where they throw a magnet in the lake and they come out and there's like iPhones and gold on the bottom. I've wanted one of those forever, so I think it would be so fun. And we bought one because it was cheaper than buying a new chain, and we just dragged it around. Took a couple hours. We dragged it around the lake, and then all of a sudden, clink! We found the chain, and we were able to pull it up most of the way and then dive down and grab it with our hands and tie a line to it. But that was so fun. And then we went to a couple bridges and threw it over the bridge trying to find stuff. But I think we're going to have the rest of the summer doing a whole bunch of magnet fishing. So I highly recommend. It's kind of scary how powerful, 1,400-pound magnet. I got it stuck to the bridge, and I almost could not take it off with all of my might.
I was going to say, that sounds crazy.
Yeah, you got to be careful you don't pinch your fingers, but it's fun.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's the type of thing I would do. That is exactly the type of thing that I would do. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sick. Yeah, I love this. That sounds like a lot of fun, man. Being outside. doing outside stuff. Love that. I'm going to pick something about inside, but not computers. I hate kitchen brushes. I don't know, a lot of them don't work very well, but I got a kitchen brush that I actually really like, a cleaning brush for the dishes that I actually really like. I like enough to talk about as a sick pick. I like this one because not only does it work well, it's $10. It's just a kitchen sink, but it has like this notch on the side of it, allowing you to hang it over the side of the sink. So when you're drying, you're not just setting it on the counter, getting the counter all wet. You hang it on the side of the sink. And it's just a stupid little feature, but it's a delight to use. And also, I don't know what is it about this kitchen brush. It's not particularly like brittle, but I found it's really good at getting stuff off the pans. I have some.
It's got the little scraper head on it too.
It's got the scraper head. We have these stainless pans that are like really hard to clean sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's been super effective on them. So I guess I'm sick picking a $10 kitchen scrubber, but my gosh, it's made my life a little bit better. So I'm putting it in front of y'all.
Make me want to. We use the IKEA dish brush because like they're also pretty aggressive, and they're like $2 a piece, but it doesn't hang over the side. Now I want to. Oh, ours has like a little suction cup. You can put it on the side of the sink, but like then it's in the way of the entire sink. What this one does is it just hangs on the end. I want to 3D print something for mine now that will do this.
Get a little clip
That's a great idea.
Clip and print. I know ours was needing a new one, so it was the perfect time to see what kind of advanced technology exists out there for
dish brush. Love it. We've talked about cleaning stuff way too often on this podcast. We got the scrub daddies because of you, and I love a scrub daddy.
Scrub daddy it up. I'm going to shamelessly plug really quick Courtney's podcast, phases.fm. That's PHASES, like Phases of Life, phases.fm. We're also on YouTube. And man, she went from not doing any this type of stuff to putting out shorts every single day. And she's doing a great job at it. She's doing an awesome job. So check it out on YouTube as well. I've been like really, really impressed with her efforts there. So we got her one of those little DJI mics and everything like that. Sick. That's pretty dope. Yeah.
I need to try one of those. My wife has the Hollylark, whatever. We got it off of producer Randy's recommendation, and it's really cool. But I want one for the shorts, and I want to hold it. Like it drives people nuts because you're not supposed to hold them. But I get it.
I don't get it. I don't get why people do that.
It's because it's a visual thing. It's something to look at, and people clip them onto funny things like a dish brush. You should try it. Clip it onto your dish brush and record a short. I guarantee it will do well.
I've been watching Warhammer painting, and I've noticed the guys clipping it onto a paintbrush and stuff. And now that you say that, it's like, oh, I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
drives audio people nuts because it's not how you're supposed to use it, but nobody cares. That's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Send us your potluck questions, syntax.fm.
Peace.